Hey YouTube. Yeah, of course I need my ass kicked because I'm yet again messing with bugs 3. Okay. Anyway, um, in this video I will try to refrain from saying the words bugs 3 sucks. Okay. Um, yeah. There we go. What I will do is talk about some of the many problems I used to have. Okay, here's what I know about Bugs 3. One of the things, the motors, whatever KV motors these are, they are strong. They do their thing. Um, they seem to be very temperamental though to movement, impact, debris, or in my case, um, when I would change a Bugs 3 platform to another frame, let's say a 250 frame, okay, my traditional way of doing it, because of the hole pattern here not really being the same as the Bugs pattern, I had to use these adapters these motor mounts that come with most of these 250 frames, right? Where you mount the motor to here and then you mount the adapter to here. Okay. Well, the problem was a very, very inaccurate drilling on my behalf, because these things were black for one thing. You can't, and I couldn't quite see them, and very inaccurate with drilling it. I'd get the thing on here though, and then mount the adapter to the frame, right? A lot of cases, the motor would feel like there's something obstructing it, keeping it from spinning. Like it would spin, but it would feel like it was hitting. So I would literally think that, maybe I was digging through deep with the screw in the bottom of the motor, and I'm thinking that it's hitting the windings as it rotates. So I'm like, gee, that kind of sucks, It's like, that screw has to be just the right size so you can torque it down without it digging up into the windings. But I'm very, very slow, considering I've been messing with this for almost a year, off and on, with different things. What I used to do, because of me being afraid of the screw being too long and going up into the windings, I would loosen the screws a little bit, thinking that I could free up this motor from being dragged or being having an obstacle during its rotation, right? So I'm loosening the motor, and what I'm doing is causing my own crashes because I'm loosening this motor that shouldn't be loosened, and once I know this because the motor actually just came out, and there's no bolts in the bottom. I'm like, what the fuck? So then I started thinking about this bottom thing here. So what I think was happening with me, I don't know about other people, because these things are firmly mounted in a Bugs 3, but if you take them out of a Bugs 3 and put them in any other type of frame platform, they seem to be more difficult than, let's say, a 2212 motor that comes out of the XKX350. It's a huge motor, and I have no problems mounting those anywhere, anyhow. These motors are smaller, and it's been a bitch. For one thing, these are screwed into your Bugs 3, and they come out with these little Phillips little screws. And I can't find these anywhere. Yeah, I think they're like 2 millimeter. So I found some with hex head, Allen heads. Okay. I've gone through 2.4. They're too short. 2.6 are pretty good. You have to actually figure out a way to get the right length. Plus, like I said, I'm always afraid of having the screw too long and being up in the windings. And what happens is I kept having them too short. But I digress about these bolts. What I believe also I was doing is if the motor's mounted and it's kind of off center, even though it's mounted tight, the bottom right here is supposed to be free. And you can see everything has holes in it. Any frames, everything has holes in it because nothing is supposed to be hitting that bottom part of the gear as it turns. So I think me with my Mickey Mouse mounting of motors on different frames or whatever, I think I would have the motors kind of off center and something would be rubbing against that bottom shaft. And rubbing against the bottom shaft, I would mistakenly assume that the bolts were too long. You know? And I'm still haven't ruled out the bolt being too long, but I do believe that there's some truth in the theory that I would mount motors off center on certain platforms and that this bottom center shaft would rub against something. So from now on, if anything comes out of a Bugs 3 and goes into another type of frame, the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I make the center hole wide enough or widen the center hole to where even if it's a little bit off center when it's mounted, there'll be nothing in the way of that bottom shaft to keep it from rotating. You know, although I still am firmly in the belief that these the screws that hold them in have to be just right, and they're kind of hard to find. And I don't want to wait for stuff to come from China. I've been using these 2mm by 10s because that's all I've been finding, and I've been trying to cut them down and just all kind of different stuff, man. Anyway, one of the purposes for this video is, yeah, some of us who are having problem with these Bugs 3s, maybe it's just not necessarily the board, which the boards have been sucking. I said I wouldn't say that. Maybe it's not the board, the temperamental ESCs. Maybe it's just a matter of the Mickey Mouse way that I remount the motors. Because Bugs 3s are kind of unique in the way that they're mounted. They're mounted in a frame. And then they've got the 4 of these Phillips head 2mm screws going through the frame, through a heat sink, and then, you know, onto the motor. And, you know, I've been having trouble because I had them, like you see in this frame here, it's mounted straight to the frame with a heat sink. And this is one of the frames where I thought I had to have the bolts kind of loose because I didn't want them to go up into the windings. And some of the bolts were too short, some of the bolts were too long. It's hard to have a bolt just right. And then if you try to wash them down with a bunch of washers, you're dealing with weight issues. So there's a bunch of different little shit. Anyway, you've seen me with 250s with risers before. I've been playing with this idea of making risers out of the Bugs 3 frame itself. And that's what I'm going to do now. There's different ways I could do this. There's different ways I'm going to mount it. Right now, I'm going to mount these motors onto this frame. Of course, I'm going to turn the tape off because I'm too long-winded. I'm going to mount these motors onto this frame with this board, and hopefully everything will work. And I'm really doing it not because I actually need the risers. If you see this motor, if you can see, it's a riser. And it's on there firm and tight, and it spins with no obstacle. That's because I believe I was tightening things down too tight, and it would hit against the bottom of it. So I got the riser on, which frees it and gives it space. Plus, this is going to be a quick release, quick mount type of deal. These risers will actually be mounted on with just one of these screws. I forgot what these are called. I think they're actually called binding screws. I forgot to keep the wrapper because I've had these for a few days, but I've barely gotten to doing this. I forgot the size you'll need, but it'll come in a pack, and this nut part, screw part, whatever, will be the length of this screw part, and that's not what you want. You want to get 2 packs for each motor because you need this size, which will come with this size screw, which will be too short for you. So, but you'll need this bottom piece. You want that size for the bottom piece, and then you want to get the other pack that has this size, so you can get this screw out, and this will be your mounting screw. So, this is actually mounted in there now with 2 little dabs of JB Weld, and so the heat sink and the smooth shaft will harden, and it'll just become one piece, like one washer. And this is already mounted in under the heat sink with the 2.6s, the 2mm by 6s. The ones I tried to make, I think were kind of hard because when I was trying to, cut through the thread with some clippers, I think I would bend the shaft a little bit, and it's hard finding the little hole with something you can't see. I mean, I spent hours the other night trying to mount motors, and I couldn't believe how many hours it took just to mount a fucking motor because I couldn't find the little hole. It's just a bitch, man. Excuse my language. Anyway, so this is one way. Okay, if you see that, let me show you how it's done real quick. It's super simple. Now it's simple. First thing you do, like I said, you get the ends of a broken Bugs 3. If your Bugs 3 is broken, just save the ends. You got to cut the ends. Make one little notch somewhere where you can get that motor out. Hopefully without cutting the wires. I'm superstitious about cutting wires on Bugs because they just, really bad luck. I need to just leave it alone, but I won't. Anyway, I don't have any heat sinks. I'm going to take these off. Okay. All right. Class. Now we're going to you turn the Bugs 3 frame end upside down, and you'll see a little ring right here. You take your Dremel. In my case, I took a Dremel, and I cut the ring out right there. Okay, because you want your heat sink to sit flush. I can show you what it is. See how the heat sink is sitting there? Okay. Normally it would not sit flush because there's a ring right there. Okay. Cut that ring down, smooth it out so the heat sink can sit a little bit more flush. All right. Then you put your little ring there to center it as much as you can with just 2 little dabs of JB Weld. I'm not even playing with the silicone on this because I want a permanent bond for later. 2 little dabs of JB Weld, and then you slap your heat sink in. And if you know the heat sinks, you already know they're notched and they're grooved. and so they sit in a certain place. That's another thing I never took into consideration. The placement of the motors and the heat sinks and all that. I would just screw them on any old kind of way, and not pay attention to the notches and all that. And I think that also caused the propeller drag. So center it like that. There's a little bit of JB Weld. Then you put the heat sink over that, right? And then you turn it upside down. You put your motor here, and what seems to work in terms of length are the 6s. 2mm by 6, okay? Slide that through, and I only use 2. I don't use all 4 holes, you know, but slide that through, dig it around, and can you believe, okay, this is the little wrench, little hex head wrench. All those little builds and stuff that I was doing, if it had anything to do with Bugs 3, the only hex head wrench that I had that fit that was a broken Allen wrench. So broken, I mean it was only about an inch big. So all those times trying to deal with that little hex head, I'm dealing with an Allen wrench that's only about an inch big. And if you know these frames at all, when you permanently have the landing gear under the frame, now you have more of an obstacle because you got this, you know, that little cornery landing gear piece that's sort of in the way, man. And so this is a big relief, but it's not like I've always had this. I just got this yesterday. It still had wrong sizes, but I always wanted to get this idea out of my head. And I do believe it works. Well, I can't say it works until I actually see something fly. But there's the theory. And you don't even have to wait for the JB Weld to dry, because it's in there, man. And it's not stopping. And I could easily just pop that here. You know, maybe put a lock washer here. But you find the hole and just turn it. And it tightens up. And it's like, yeah, like a quick release motors, instead of fishing for that damn hole, man, and you can't find the hole. And I'm telling you, I really racked my brain with the mounts, man. And so that's the reason for this is the quickness and ease. Once you find the hole and thread it, you're home. But until then, yeah, it's kind of a bitch. So I'm going to experiment with that, and then afterwards, these are also motor mounts. These are no different than the one that I just showed you. This one, the difference is they're clear. They come acrylic clear because they come with those USA frames. So if you have an orange flame, you're going to have orange adapters. You're going to have an orange. And I've never used them because most of the times when I use the USA frames, I've never used adapters. I've made risers, but not adapters. But as soon as I saw these adapters, I was like, fuck, you know, it would make it a lot easier should I ever use Bugs 3 motors and adapters again, because now I don't have to fish for them because they're clear. I glue the heat sink on top of the adapter, kind of centered it in a certain way. You want the holes to be opposite these holes because these holes actually, you know, fit into the frame, and then you have some screws that you can very easily screw into that, which, you know, that is sort of a riser in of itself. So yeah, I glued the heat sinks so they're stationary, and then let the glue sit overnight, and then the next day I drill out the holes that are already in the heat sink, which goes to the plastic. Then take the drill and center out this hole to where there's no overlapping. Make that hole nice, big, and clear. So when you mount your Bugs 3 motor onto the heat sink, there's no obstacle for that motor. So it should be tight, and there'll be nothing holding it. So yeah, that's what we got, man. Little idea for Bugs 3 adapters or motor risers, and you can use these for other risers, but it's really the Bugs 3 motor that seems to be the oddball compared to all the other motors I got. I got a few sets of motors now. You know, the 2300 kV, I don't know the dimensions right off the top. Probably like, you know, oh man, I'd say 1806s, 2006s, 2004, so something like that, you know. Comparable to Bugs 3 sizes, but they're not nearly as oddball as these Bugs because they're all more or less adaptable. I don't have to do any drilling or anything to interchange motors here and there. Of course, you have to splice them and all that, but the Bugs is just, it's different and all, it's, you know. So anyway, yeah, save your arms, the Bugs 3 arms, because if you ever want to make a rat rod or something, you know, you might have a little issue mounting the Bugs 3 motors onto a frame that is anything other than the Bugs 3 frame, okay? Because you'll see the Bugs 3 use these 2mm, and I think it's a fine thread, and it was a hard screw for me to find. There's many other screws that I can use, but it's sort of forcing. It's sort of like, you know, it's sort of like be stripping the thread of the motor as you're doing it. Like I found these little black screws with a Phillips head. This isn't it, but and I found some with a Phillips head. I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is cool. Let me get 100 of these real cheap. I'll be in heaven. They sort of strip the threads as you use it. And I was still going to do it though as a one-time thing. But man, I'm going to get to work. And anyway, quick mount. Just pop, and well, we'll see how quick it is because this needs to go there. And then that's just to see if we can still get these to spin. They were spinning. This had an accident. It was spinning, and it was working. And I went for a flight a couple nights ago, and it fell out the sky and crashed. I have it on tape. I just haven't loaded it. I kind of don't want to load it. But upon inspection, when it fell out of the sky, I'm thinking it just lost power. Like, why did it lose power? I truly believe what happened was my fear of these motors being too tight and wanting them to spin. I think I had the bolts too loose, and the bolts literally vibrated out while the bird was in midair, and the motor came off. Because when I got to the bird, everything was intact. Of course, it was broken. You know, the canopy saved a lot. 808 keychain was still functioning. But when I got to the bird, you know, of course, it was broken and stuff. One of the motors was dangling, you know, off the frame and broken, you know, off the frame. But I looked and there were no bolts. None. So what else could it be that have made that crash? So we cannot call that one mechanical error. I will call that user error, pilot error, because I was the one that piloted it. I should have known to have my bolts tight enough. Thank you, man. Chris, keep rocking. Mad Dog, do your thing, man. I'm here, bro. I see your videos. I watch when I can. You know. I can't fall back on my prior commitments to put in, you know, minimum a lot of time for watching pornography and analysis. So, you know, I can't always watch YouTube. I have a commitment to watch so many hours of porn a week, or else I'll be in trouble. So, all right, guys, I'll see you later. I swear to God, I hate these fucking Bugs 3 so fucking much. This motherfucker had 4 motors working. So it took me a couple days to take it out of the frame and put it on another frame because I had shit to do, and I tried to figure out different ways to mount motors. But wouldn't you believe, Garen motherfucking T, I knew it! You put the fucking board on another frame, and look. 3 goddamn motherfucking spin instead of 4. Fuck you, fucking Bugs 3. God, I hate you, man. You fucking take up so much of my goddamn time, it's ridiculous. If this was an XK, it'd be flying already. Fuck Bugs 3. Fuck Bugs 3. Fuck Bugs 3.